It's up. Yep. Hey, hello and welcome. This is the wasmCloud community call, first one of March 4th. We're following a previous week of kind of conferencing for the Bytecode Alliance Summit. If you haven't caught that already, I totally recommend watching it. Both days were packed full of awesome content. The first day was very much focused on the road to 1.0 for the component model. Luke kicked us off on the day. There were other amazing talks like cooperative threading and the timeline for that and the roadmap around that from Cy Brand. Joel gave an amazing walkthrough on basically where we are with all the different guest languages. And Alex Crichton gave a talk about what it takes to land a lot of these proposals that we've been talking about all the way through. I thought that was gold. Maintainer Yordis got a shout on that one. So Yordis, if you're watching this later, you should watch and get your name called out that you did a great job. And last but not least, Victor Adossi from wasmCloud Maintainer came in and talked through all the changes that we're making with Jaco and all the different pieces and parts that come together for that puzzle. And that was really wonderful. And actually, Eric, you want to talk about some of the draft blog posts that you have cooking on that?
Sure, happy to. So we're going to have two blog posts coming out of the Plumber Summit that I think folks can look out for in the next couple of weeks in the lead up to Wasm.io. One is going to walk through the road ahead to Component Model 1.0, and another is going to break down Jaco in depth as a project, looking at it from five different angles, thinking about it sort of as a multi-tool with a lot of different roles in the ecosystem and for developers.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've been working on a draft blog post. Also, you should expect to see it in a couple weeks for just WASI P3 and diving specifically on the WASI changes that we made. And so that is it for kind of getting you up to date on what's happening kind of external to us. Let's put the focus back on wasmCloud now. And for that, Lucas, if you'd like to share a little bit on where we are right now with wasmCloud v2. Would love to open the floor to you first, and I'll also give a shout out to one of the changes that I just put up.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm going to share my screen here. We are pretty much in the send request. We are in the last minutes of this release here, and the way things will start happening now will be a mixture of Wash repository and wasmCloud repository. So just want to give a quick rundown here of what is missing and also how this change will happen. In terms of PRs to merge, we have very few ones here for 2.0 that are blocking, and namely is this named interface. This one is an alignment with the component model where we will have new with instructions that lets you import the same interface multiple times under a different name. And this will happen during build time, and then during the runtime here, at the execution time, you can bind the same interface, let's say WASI key value, with a different name, sessions versus cache. And this way you can use memcache for one WASI key value, Redis for another one. And this change here, the runtime part, as in operator, wasmCloud, and so on, we are getting in the configuration in right now. So we are paving the path that when this is released in Wasm time, Wasm tools, and all the other WebAssembly tooling, will just work. So we just get that feature enabled to us on the spot there, which means it will be optional. So you don't need to specify name. It is backwards compatible. And things here really line up to not have the previous concept of links being pushed forward, but instead working with the ecosystem to use something that will work for everybody in all runtimes. The other one is the removal of the Wash CLI plugin system. And here, I want to really be clear that there are two plugin systems inside Wash. One is for all the host plugins. So when we're talking about blob store, key value, so like the plugins that we talk about, we are always talking about host plugins. Wash also has another type of plugin, which is a component plugin. And what this component plugin used to do is you can create a WebAssembly component that is invoked before or after a build, before or after with fetch. And we realized that executing this as a component actually makes things really hard for you to do anything meaningful. So what we're doing here is we realize we don't have any plugins for this right now. We wrote a few that we tried to see, check the ergonomics, how that would behave, and didn't feel right. Felt a bit forced. So we're taking a step back with that implementation, and we'll not have Wash CLI plugins, dev plugins in Wash 2.0 to begin with, and see how far we can get by having the current shell hooks. So inside your Wash configuration, you can essentially define which build command you want to execute. So if you want to execute a command before another one, you put it there and have another shell script that takes care of it. So it's a bit of a different approach here that gets the same end result. Now, with those two pull requests this means, we have Masood.
Hey, Lucas. Uh, I thought that the idea was that for, let's say, users such as me, Wash provides that convenience way to extend what an administrator can do, and then use the plugin model to kind of have it in a standard manner.
Mhm.
In the age of agentic coding, for example, right? If I teach the specs to an agent about Wash plugin, then I can use that to create different utilities that I might need in my specific installation. So again, that was my understanding. So also I'm kind of wondering, why it's being removed.
Yeah, and this is a great question. So we realize it's a bit on the side of we're strong together situation. We could make Wash do everything that other tools are doing, or we could play nice in the sandbox. Uh, and by playing nice in the sandbox, this means we have in Wash the hooks that allow you to bring other developer experiences and interact that in a cohesive way. So now the interesting part here about administrators is that in wasmCloud v2, Wash is for local development. All cluster administration happens over kubectl. So there's a separation of concerns and tooling there. So that's why it also feels like if we added this to Wash, and the initial idea, yes, in fact, was to have Wash uh, with a kubectl plugin inside and talking directly to Kubernetes, we realized that it would be writing kubectl in Rust, essentially. So the way that we see this integrating now is in your wash config, you can specify the build command and where to expect the WebAssembly file to exist after your build is finished. So if you need to ping an external system or enforce some linting rules, you would do that here either by combining the commands with like semicolon, ampersand, and so on, or you would extract this into a shell script and call it in your wash build flow. Now, this is to say that we realize most people are also used to do npm build, so we don't want to force them to start doing wash build in those situations. So the approach that we're taking here is you are not being forced to always be on wash build for WebAssembly. You can continue on your own flow. Go, baby.
Yeah, I think another example that would be good to show, Lucas, is the one that you did for the service, if you've got one handy for that. I think in terms of playing nice in the sandbox and being able to use other components to extend what you're doing, even when you're doing local development, we basically have it set up now where you can load multiple WebAssembly components. And in this way, this fills the exact same need that we were trying to, or we were thinking we would use essentially a plugin framework around, like having these like local wash dev plugins. Instead of having an entire plugin system around that, have it map to what, and have it behave exactly what it would do in production. And so this is sort of the exact same slimmed down version of what you would put in a workload deployment. And that's a really great simplification for me, at least for me. Like why I was motivated to remove the plugin system right now is that for the longest time we were trying to align the release of wasmCloud v2 with WASI P3. And it looks like it's going to be one more month, and I don't want to wait one more month for P3. So to get a wasmCloud v2 out there, we have to have an API that we are confident we're not going to break. And that requires a radical simplification of things. And when I look at the WIT definition for our plugin system, there's a lot of things I would change there to take advantage of P3 and make a lot of those function calls async. And knowing that that is coming and that we currently don't have a need for that plugin WIT right now, I'd rather not potentially break the API and require a wasmCloud v3 or a wash v3. And I really don't want to try to solve some type of migration story if it's not, you know, a key MVP feature that we have to have out of the gate. So at least for me, that was like the biggest motivation to pull it out right now. And I think so much has changed in the evolution of this, where like what Lucas was saying was basically, you know, we started thinking that all these different things that we have right now in this config file would be in each factored out into different component modules. Whereas in reality, what a lot of people want is to be able to call these external systems, and just giving them that exact hook for exactly what they need in their config means we had this radical simplification of what we have to do inside Wash itself. And that means very unlikely that we'll break the API, which is what I'm going for.
Less moving parts. That's how you make a system more resilient. Right. So we talked a bit about the pull requests. Now, what is happening regarding the repos? So we spend most of our life of wasmCloud v2 inside the wash repository. Everything that we have in here is gonna come over to wasmCloud, and essentially take over the main branch here. With that, we're gonna bring all the pull requests, issues, everything that we can use the magic converter that Bailey has there. Now, things that are in this repo inside wasmCloud v1. So two things will happen. They will move to a wasmCloud v1 repo. So it's going to be another repo. All the information regarding contributors, which is the important part here, all the contributors will be kept intact, as in stars, contributors, the community traffic. You're not losing access to wasmCloud. So this is more to contributors and people with right access here. We are not replacing the repository, so the repository will remain the same. The settings are the same. What we are replacing is the main branch. So it's just that data. All the Git history will still be there. So that's why none of the contributor history here is going to be lost. Anything to add on this one, baby?
Yeah, I think you called it out directly. I would just say what's currently on wasmCloud main, I'm thinking what I'm going to do is create a wasmCloud v1 repo and move that there. And the main motivation for that is just the way that we build and publish v1 is so different from v2. I don't want those two CIs to be intermingled. And I want to be able to, you know, if we have to cut a patch of v1, independent of v2. So that's just kind of a mechanical thing. But I think what we're telling you right now is we are very close to going and doing that. And that means we're basically gonna kind of like pause everything for a day or two, right? Do this migration and then turn it back on, and we'll let everybody know in wasmCloud Slack.
Anybody going to KubeCon? Huh?
Or wasm.io. Well, we'll be at both places, so if you end up going, please come and say hi. Stop by our booth. Booth duty is boring without you. And with that, I think that's our whole agenda. Any other questions or topics we want to raise?
Before we close, I'll point folks to a couple of new docs we've got that
Sweet.
might be useful. See if I have sharing powers. Yeah, there we go. So first, up at the top level, we have a new and expanded intro on the What is wasmCloud page for V2. So some pretty graphics, breakdown of the why and the what, and a good deal more detail than before. So I hope folks find that useful for perhaps introducing new people to the project, talking about it with team members, etc. But I think the real meat here is thanks to Jeremy. Jeremy's been on a tear in the operator manual, and want to make sure people see our new operator and gateway overview that gets some great documentation in on the runtime gateway. That was a bit of a gap that we had previously, as well as some wonderful docs for roles and role bindings. So definitely check those out. I think those are some really good practical hands-on documents there.
Yeah, those are all great shouts. And we also have a ton of diagrams, I realized. Somebody was asking me for a diagram for a problem they had. And I went and looked and I found, I don't know, 8 that kind of like touch different parts of the story of what they were asking for. And that feels good, you know? That feels really good. It's like, oh, not only do we have I can send you a dot link, but I can actually send you lots of different pieces of this puzzle in detail now. So in terms of getting ready to launch V2, I feel like we're in an excellent place in terms of documentation. So if you're hearing this, please go look at the docs and give us feedback and make sure that what I think is accurate. And we're ready to get a lot of folks coming and looking and trying it out once we make big noise about the V2 release. Alrighty. Any other topics or questions, folks? If not, all right, we're gonna get back to locking this thing in. Let's go. Thank you, everybody.